Welcome to the tutorial on biochemic cell salts. We start with cell salt Calcarea Florica. Key attributes of cell salt Calcarea Florica are boils, bone deformities, breast indurations, joints cracking, lumbago, strains, varicose veins. Indications. Calcarea Florica is a chief remedy for boils and varicose veins. There are ulcers of the scalp with hard edges, hard excrescences on the scalp. It also helps in styes, fissures or cracks on the palms of hands or hard skin with formation of crusts. It is also useful in anal fissures, indolent fistulous ulcers secreting thick yellow pus, induration of stony hardness, hard, elevated edge of ulcers, surrounding skin purple and swollen. Calcarea Florica also helps in gum boil with hard swelling on the jaw. There is also ulcerations of mouth and throat. Calcarea Florica is useful in varicose and enlarged veins, especially varicose veins of vulva in females. Calcarea Florica also helps in bone deformities, joint affections and lumbago. There is caries and necrosis of bones with boring pain and heat in parts resulting from congenital syphilis. It also helps in lumbago due to strain and chronic lumbago, worse on beginning to move and better by continued motion. There is tired feeling and pain in lower part of the back. Calcarea Florica is also useful on joint affections, ganglia at the back of the wrist, gouty enlargements of the joints of the fingers. There is crackling in the joints. It also helps in osseous growths and enlargements of bones with or without caries, particularly of traumatic origin. Calcarea Florica is also indicated in breast induration. There is tumor in the female breast which is hard and knotty. Indurations of stony hardness. Calcarea Florica also helps in weak ligaments, tooth decay, neuralgia and cataract. Next, we have Calcarea Phosphorica. Key attributes of cell salt Calcarea Phosphorica are anemia, brain fag, broken bones, colds, colic, fractures, headaches, joint disorders, leukorrhea, rheumatism, stiff neck, tardy dentition, throat sore, tonsils enlarged. Indications. Calcarea Phosphorica is a chief remedy for tardy dentition, bone and joint disorders. Dentition is difficult, delayed or complicated in children. Teeth develop slowly and there is rapid decay of teeth. Calcarea Phosphorica is also useful in complaints during dentition. Calcarea Phosphorica is also indicated in bone and joint disorders. There is defective bone development with tendency of bones to curve, especially long bones. There is slow learning to walk on account of weak ankles, instability to stand. Frontanelles remain open too long in babies. Spine is weak and disposed to curvature. Cranial bones are thin and brittle. The spine in lumbar region is so weak that the child cannot sit upright unless the back is supported. Calcarea Phosphorica also helps in rheumatism and stiff neck. Rheumatism caused after getting wet in rain. Pain in joints and various other parts. There is stiffness and pain with cold. Numb feeling. Pain is worse from change of weather, winter, by motion and exertion. Also stiffness in the neck with dullness in head. Calcarea Phosphorica is also indicated in fractures of the bones, when there is non-union and malunion of bones. Calcarea Phosphorica is useful in anemia after acute diseased and chronic wasting diseases. The anemic children are peevish, flabby, have cold extremities and feeble digestion, numbness and crawling sensation in different organs. It also helps in brain fag. The patient is forgetful, always wants to go somewhere. Complaints worse when thinking about them. Emaciated body with sunken flabby abdomen. Calcarea phosphorica is also indicated in headache, colic and leukorrhea, headache of gastric origin, abdominal flatulence and mental exertion. It is useful in headache of schoolgirls, at about puberty. Headaches worse during change of weather, after eating. Better during rest. Calcarea phosphorica also helps in colicky. Pain in abdomen at every attempt to eat. Abdomen is sunken and flabby. There is soreness and burning around navel during colic. Flatulence is temporarily relieved after sour irritation. The patient craves smoked and salted meat and salty food. There is great hunger with thirst. Calcarea phosphorica is also useful in leukorrhea in young girls, which is like white of an egg, worse in the morning with violent back pain. Calcarea phosphorica also helps in cold, sore throat, enlarged and swollen tonsils. Sore aching in throat, cannot open mouth without pain. Tonsils are enlarged and swollen in children. Lastly, we have Calcarea sulfurica. Key attributes of cell salt. Calcarea sulfurica are cough, cysts, dysentery, eczema, fistula, hemorrhages, injuries, polyps, spermaturia, tonsillitis, ulcers, yellow mucus. Indications. Calcarea sulfurica has marked action on yellow mucus. All the mucus discharges are yellow, thick and lumpy. There is inflammation of eyes with discharge of thick yellow matter. Yellowish discharge from posterior nares, sometimes blood-streaked, and edges of nostrils swollen and hard. One-sided discharge from the nose. Calcarea sulfurica is also useful in suppurating stage of tonsillitis when abscess is discharging. Suppurating sore throat. Useful in last stage of ulcerated sore throat with discharge of yellow matter. Calcarea sulfurica also helps in cough. There is cough with hectic fever and purulent and sanneous expectoration. There is pain across chest, burning and weakness in chest. Catarrh with thick lumpy, white-yellow or pus-like secretion. Calcarea sulfurica is useful in abscess and cysts. There is a tendency to formation of abscess in the body in any place. Painful abscess about the anus in cases of fistula. Calcarea sulfurica also helps in skin conditions like cuts, wounds, bruises, ulcers and eczema. Skin is unhealthy discharging pus. Wounds do not heal readily. Skin affections with yellowish scabs. It is indicated in dry eczema in children. Calcarea sulfurica is also indicated in hemorrhages, dysentery, injuries, polyps and spermaturia. Next, we have Cali group. First cell salt in this group is Cali Muriaticum. Key attributes of cell salt Cali Muriaticum are acne, constipation, deafness, diarrhea, eye disorders, hemorrhoids, piles, jaundice, joints stiff, oral ulcers, apathy in mouth, otitis media, sinusitis, vaccination. Effects, warts. Indications. Cali Muriaticum has marked action in treating otitis media. It helps in chronic catarrhal conditions of the middle ear with snapping and noises in the ear. There is deafness from swelling of external ear and throat troubles. There is great effusion about the auricle. It also helps in glandular swellings and in infectious diseases of children. Glands about the ear are swollen. Cali Muriaticum also helps in deafness due to blow. It also helps in nasal catarrh with phlegm which is white and thick. Pharynx with adherent crusts. Cali Muriaticum also helps in follicular tonsillitis and sinusitis. Tonsils are enlarged, inflamed, making breathing difficult. Cali Muriaticum also helps in eye disorders with discharge of white mucus from eyes or yellow, greenish matter and yellow purulent scabs. It also helps in superficial flat ulcer of the eye and in corneal opacities. Cali Muriaticum is also a chief remedy for oral ulcers. Aphthoi with white ulcers in the mouth. Swollen glands about jaw and neck. There is grayish-white coating on the tongue. Tongue either dry or slimy. Cali Muriaticum also helps in indigestion caused due to rich, fatty food. Indigestion with vomiting of white opaque mucus, water gathers in mouth. Pain in stomach with constipation. Constipation with light-colored stools due to sluggish action of liver, or as a consequence of jaundice. It also helps in diarrhea after fatty food and in typhoid fever. With pale, yellow, white or slimy stools. Cali Muriaticum is also useful in bleeding hemorrhoids. Blood dark and thick, fibrinous and clotted. Cali Muriaticum is also suitable remedy for stiff joints. Rheumatic pains felt only during motion or increased by motion. Pains worse in night, from warmth of bed. Lightning-like pains from small of back to feet. Must get out of bed and sit up. Exudations and swelling around the joints. Also stiffness of wrist while writing. Cali Muriaticum is also indicated in acne, abscess, boils, carbuncles and warts. There are vesicular eruptions containing thick white contents, dry flour-like scales on the skin, ulcers with whitish, flour-like coating or fibrinous white discharge. Also skin conditions caused due to bad effects of vaccination. Second cell salt is Cali Phosphoricum. Key attributes of cell salt Cali Phosphoricum are alopecia, amenorrhea, anemia, asthma, bedwetting, brain fag, depression, dysentery, feet fidgety, insomnia, menstrual headaches, nervous dyspepsia, sciatica, urticaria. Indications. Cali Phosphoricum is a suitable remedy for many mental disorders like depression, loss of memory, weak memory, brain fag etc. The patient is very nervous, depressed and general irritability. There is great despondency about business and loss of memory. Indisposition to meet people. The patient is shy with no inclination to converse. Want of energy, slightest labor seems heavy task. Also brain fag from overwork. Anxiety and nervousness. Gloomy and always looks at the dark side of every thing. There is extreme lassitude and depression. There are hallucinations and illusions of senses. Also helps in anemic conditions. Cali Phosphoricum also helps in headache of students and those worn out by fatigue. Occipital headache and head feels tired and dull. Headache is relieved by gentle motion. Cali Phosphoricum is also useful in menstrual headaches and also in amenorrhea with depression, lassitude and nervous debility. Cali Phosphoricum is also useful in nervous dyspepsia. There is nervous gone sensation in the pit of the stomach. There is vomiting of sour, bitter food. And a blood empty gone sensation relieved by eating. There is indigestion with nervous depression. It also helps in dysentery when stool consists of pure blood and the patient becomes delirious. Rectum burns and feels sore. Cali Phosphoricum is also indicated in fidgety of feet. There is rheumatic lameness with stiffness after rest and becoming better by gentle motion. Worse by exertion and fatigue. Also helps in sciatica. Cali Phosphoricum also helps in bedwetting. There is incontinence of urine from nervous debility. It also helps in insomnia or sleeplessness after worry or excitement from nervous causes. Also walking in sleep in children. Cali Phosphoricum is also useful in asthma from least food, short breath on going upstairs. Chest very sore. Cali Phosphoricum also helps in urticaria and alopecia. Lastly, we have Cali Sulfuricum. Key attributes of cell salt Cali Sulfuricum are asthma, dandruff, eczema, nettle rash, polyps, psoriasis, rheumatism, sinusitis. Indications. Cali Sulfuricum has marked action on skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis, nettle rash and polyps. There are burning, itching, papular eruptions. Skin is dry, hot and burning. Itchy eruptions in nettle rash in children. Cali Sulfuricum also helps in seborrhea or dandruff in ringworm of scalp or beard with abundant scales. Sores on skin with thick, profuse, yellow watery secretion. Cali Sulfuricum is also indicated in rheumatism. There are rheumatic pains in the back, nape of neck or in the limbs. Pains periodically worse in the evening or in a warm room and better in cool atmosphere. Pains are of shifting and wandering nature. Cali Sulfuricum also helps in asthma and sinusitis. Colds with yellow, slimy expectoration. Nose is obstructed. Loss of smell. There is mouth breathing in. Snoring. There is bronchial asthma with yellow expectoration. Cough worse in evening and in hot atmosphere. Rattling of mucus in the chest. Next, we have natrum group. There are 3 cell salts. In this group, Natrum Muriaticum, Natrum Phosphoricum, Natrum Sulfuricum. The first cell salt in this group is Natrum Muriaticum. Key attributes of cell salt Natrum Muriaticum are anemia, brain fag, constipation, cough, cracked skin, debility, dry mucous membranes, gout, headache, hiccup. Intermittent fevers, leukorrhea, lice, ringworm, sleepwalking, spermatorrhea, sunstroke. Ulcers, vertigo, worms. Indications. Natrum Muriaticum has marked action on dry mucous membranes. This dryness of mucous membranes is seen in nose when there is violent and fluent coryza lasting from 1 to 3 days, then changing to stoppage of nose. Stoppage of nose makes breathing difficult. Discharge from the nose is thin, watery like white of egg. Cold commences with sneezing. There is loss of smell and taste with internal soreness and dryness of the nose. Natrum Muriaticum is also useful in marked coryza and cough when there is sticking sensation in throat. Sputum is thick, whitish and is worse in the morning and at seashore. Natrum Muriaticum is also indicated in dryness of the mucous membrane of the mouth. There is sense of dryness with frothy coating on the tongue with bubbles on sides. Vesicular eruptions and burning on tongue as if there is hair on it. Eruptions around mouth and vesicles like pearls on lips. Lips and corners of the mouth are dry, ulcerated and cracked. There is deep crack in the middle of the lower lip. Mapped tongue with red, insular patches, like ringworms on sides. Natrum Muriaticum is also useful for fever blisters. It is also indicated for intermittent fevers with chill between 9 and 11 a.m. There is weakness and constipation with loss of appetite during fever. Sweats on slightest exertion. Natrum Muriaticum is also useful in headache caused due to exposure to sun, eye strain, taking too much salt. There is a sensation as if 1,000 little hammers are knocking at the brain. Bursting and chronic type of headache. It is specially useful in headaches of school-going girls who are emaciated and anemic. Natrum Muriaticum also helps in anemia and brain fag caused due to loss of vital fluids. There is cachectic condition and chlorotic look with blue rings around the eyes and edema. Natrum Muriaticum is suitable for many menstrual and female conditions. It helps when first menstruation is delayed or menses is irregular, too early or too late, too scanty or too profuse. There is bearing down pain worse in the morning during menses. There is feeling of hotness during menses. Headache after menses. There is also dryness of the vagina. Natrum Muriaticum also helps in skin conditions like ulcers, warts and eczema. Eczema especially on the margins of hair, scalp and behind ears. Skin is raw, red and ulcerated. Natrum muriaticum also helps in warts on palms of hands. It is also indicated in acute or chronic herpes around edges of hair and nape of neck. All the skin complaints are worse from eating too much salt, at seashore and better in open air and by cold bathing. Natrum muriaticum is also suitable remedy for sleepwalking. There is nervous jerking during sleep with dreams of robbers. Sleepless from grief. Natrum muriaticum also helps in gout, hiccup, spermaturia, lice and worms. Next cell salt is Natrum Phosphoricum. Key attributes of cell salt Natrum Phosphoricum are acidity, hyperacidity, conjunctivitis, diabetes, gout, infertility, leukorrhea, mouth ulcers, postnasal catarrh, rheumatism, stomach pain, thread worms, urticaria. Indications. Natrum Phosphoricum is a chief remedy for hyperacidity and ulcers. In the mouth, there is yellow, creamy coating at the back part of the roof of mouth. Thin and moist coating on the tongue. There are ulcers or blisters on the tip of the tongue. Natrum Phosphoricum is very effective for people who experience stomach pain after eating with great acidity. There are sour risings with sour irritations, taste and sour vomiting. It also helps in colic with symptoms of worms, thread worms and roundworms. Ailments caused due to too much sugar. It also helps in diarrhea caused by excess acidity. Stools sour smelling. Sudden urging with difficulty in retaining stool. Natrum Phosphoricum also helps in gout and rheumatism. There is weariness with aching in wrists and finger joints, trembling of hands while writing, pains in fingers, toes, ankles and knee joint. Natrum Phosphoricum is also useful in other conditions like urticaria. There is much itching at ankle joints with eczematous eruptions. It also helps in leukorrhea and infertility. Discharge is creamy or honey-colored. Infertility with acid secretions from vagina. Natrum Phosphoricum is also indicated in conjunctivitis, postnasal catarrh and diabetes. Nasopharyngeal catarrh with thick yellow offensive mucus. Lastly, we have Natrum Sulfuricum. Key attributes of cell salt. Natrum sulfuricum or asthma, bedwetting, biliousness, debility in alcoholics, diabetes, fistula, head injuries, headaches, influenza, liver enlarged, malaria, migraine, nasal catarrh, nosebleed, photophobia, sciatica, sinusitis, spinal injuries, spleen disorders, warts. Indications. Natrum Sulfuricum has marked action on many gastrointestinal symptoms like biliousness, liver troubles, diarrhea, flatulent colic, hepatitis etc. There is pain and tenderness in the whole abdomen with great flatulence. Pain is dull, burning relieved by passing flatus. The patient cannot bear tight clothing around waist, with vomiting of bile. There is frequent expulsion of offensive flatus in morning. Pain worse before breakfast. Natrum sulfuricum is useful in hepatitis when liver is sore. To touch with sharp stitching pain with nausea and vomiting of bile. The stool is watery, yellowish, or greenish in color. Natrum sulfuricum also helps in diarrhea after a spell of wet weather. Living or working in damp basement. Morning diarrhea as soon as the patient gets up from the bed. Natrum sulfuricum is also useful in chronic diarrhea with tuberculosis of intestine. Natrum sulfuricum is also a chief remedy for nasal catarrh with thick yellowish discharge and salty mucus. Also useful in nosebleed or epistaxis during menses which is acrid and profuse. It also Helps in late stages of pneumonia when lower lobe of left lung is affected. There is all gone sensation in the chest. Congestion with thick yellowish ropey expectoration. Natrum sulfuricum is also indicated in asthma, which is worse in the morning from 4 to 5 a.m. There is dyspnea with desire to take deep breaths in rainy weather. Natrum sulfuricum is also useful in other conditions like headaches, photophobia, influenza, migraine and sinusitis. It also works for debility in alcoholics and diabetes. Urine is loaded with bile and excessive secretion in diabetes. Natrum sulfuricum is indicated in spinal meningitis and other head symptoms from injury to head. Hands tremble on writing. Natrum sulfuricum also helps in warts which are red all over the body. Next cell salt is Ferrum phosphoricum. Key attributes of cell salts Ferrum phosphoricum are anemia, bronchitis, colds, coughs, debility, diarrhea, dyspepsia, dysentery, fevers, gastritis, hemorrhages, inflammation, injuries, rheumatism, sprains, styes, throat sore, varicose veins. Indications. Ferrum phosphoricum is a chief remedy for fever and inflammations. It helps in the first stage of all inflammations, with fever and congestion, will often deal with it before it takes hold. The patient is nervous, sensitive and anemic with false plethora and easy flushing. There is bleeding from any orifice and the blood is bright red in color. Inflammations have no mucus or pus. Ferrum phosphoricum is useful in inflammation of eyes in acute conjunctivitis. Eyes inflamed, red with gunning sensation, with soreness and a feeling of grains of sand under eyelids. Ferrum phosphoricum is also indicated in first state of otitis. Earache after exposure to cold or wet inflammatory. Earache with burning or throbbing pain. Ferrum phosphoricum also helps in inflammation of throat. Throat is ulcerated, sore, dry, red with much pain, first stage of diphtheria. Ferrum phosphoricum is also indicated in first stage of gastritis, with pain and tenderness at the pit of the stomach. Dyspepsia with vomiting of undigested food and with bright red blood. It also helps in dysentery, with much blood in discharges. Constipation with prolapse and hemorrhoids. It is also useful in inflamed hemorrhoids. Hemorrhage from piles bright red in color. Ferrum phosphoricum is also useful in catarrhal fever. All catarrhal and inflammatory fever with chills every day at 1 p.m. Congested mucous membranes. Congestion of lungs with cough dry, hard with sore chest. Cough better at night. Helps in bronchitis of young children. It also helps in articular rheumatism of shoulders. Pain extends to the upper part of the chest. Rheumatic pain worse from motion and better from warmth. Ferrum phosphoricum also helps in treating diurnal enuresis, injuries, sprains, styes, varicose veins. Now, we come to cell salt Magnesia phosphorica. Key attributes of cell salt. Magnesia phosphorica are colic, convulsions, cough, cramps, dysmenorrhea, headache, menstruation. Painful, neuralgic pain, toothache. Indications. Magnesia phosphorica is a chief remedy for neuralgic pains. It works for the neuralgia especially of face, supra or infraorbital region on the right side. Pains are sharp, cutting and almost unendurable. The pain is felt along the course of the nerve like a lightning flash and it rapidly changes place. Intermittent paroxysms driving the patient frenzy. Neuralgia worse from motion and draft of cold air and is relieved by heat. Warmth, pressure and bending double. Magnesia phosphorica also helps in ulceration of teeth with severe neuralgic pains. There is sharp pain which comes in paroxysms worse at night, from eating, drinking especially cold things and relieved by heat. Magnesia phosphorica is also a suitable remedy for abdominal colic, pain at the pit of the stomach or anywhere in the abdomen with bloated and full sensation in the stomach. Sharp, cutting, stabbing, shooting and stitching type of pain, coming and going like a lightning. It is antispasmodic remedy, useful in any spasm. Pain compels the patient to bend double. Great distension of abdomen and the patient wants to loosen clothing. Walks about and constantly passes flatus which gives no relief. Pain worse by touch and better by rubbing, warmth and pressure. Magnesia phosphorica also helps in dysmenorrhea and painful menses. Menses too early, flow dark and stringy. There is severe pain in abdomen especially on the right side. Pain rapidly changes place, comes like lighting flash. Pain is of cramping type. Pain is worse before the flow begins and better when flow starts, by lying of right side, by heat and bending double. Magnesia phosphorica is also useful in headache. It is especially suitable for the headache of schoolgirls, headache from cold air, right-sided headache as if cap is on the head. Headache begins in occiput and extends all over the head. Pain is of neuralgic type, darting, stabbing and rapidly changing. Pain comes suddenly and goes suddenly. Pain worse from 10 to 11 a.m. or 4 to 5 p.m., from mental exertion, emotions, touch and open air. It is better by external heat, hard pressure and rubbing. 12th cell salt is silicea. Key attributes of cell salt silicea are abscess, acne, anemia, anal fissures, fistula, boils, coccyx pain, conjunctivitis, constipation, coryza, cough, fractures, headache, hernia, homesickness, keloids, otitis, rheumatism chronic, sinuses, sleepwalking, spermatoria, strains, teeth decay, tumors, ulcers, urine incontinence, vertigo, worms. Indications. Silicea is a chief remedy for abscess and boils. It is a first-grade remedy for promoting and controlling the process of inflammation and suppuration. Silicea has a tendency to expel foreign bodies from the tissues. It is useful when old scar becomes painful. Again, indurated, shiny, glossy due to sluggish constitution. Skin is unhealthy, every injury suppurates. It also helps in crippled nails on fingers and toes. Small wounds heal with difficulty. There are painful pustular eruptions becoming suppurating ulcers. Eczematous are herpetic eruptions, with disposition to boils in various parts which are painful to touch, fistula lacrimalis. In growing toenails, blood boils, carbuncles, ulcers of all types. Fistulae are very painful and offensive with high spongy edges. There are abscesses at joints. Silicea also helps in treating keloids and acne. There are rose-colored blotches on the skin. Silicea also helps in skin conditions like abscess caused due to bad effects of vaccination. Silicea is also indicated in otitis or inflammation of the ear. There is fetid discharge from the ear. Also helps in caries of the mastoid bone of the ear. There is roaring sounds in the ear. Silicea also helps in many gastrointestinal disorders. Their disgust for meat and warm food, with loss of appetite or ravenous hunger wth great thirst. But as soon as drinks water it causes vomiting. There is painful, cold feeling in the abdomen with obstinate constipation. Sensation of weakness in rectum. Stool passes with great straining. It is partly expelled and then recedes back, hence has to be removed mechanically. Fistula in ano alternates with chest complaints. There are painful fissures in hemorrhoids which cause irritation, constipation before, during and after menses. Silicea also helps in expelling worms in children. Silicea is also useful in rheumatism and pain in the coccyx, pains through hips, legs and feet, cramps in the calves and soles, feels tremors in hands when using them, also pain beneath the toes. It also helps in spinal irritation after injuries in fractures to the spine and pain in coccyx, also in diseases of bones of spine. Silicea also helps in chronic headache. Headache arises from nape of neck, ascends the vertex and settles over the right eye. Violent headache with confusion of mind. Headache worse from mental exertion, noise, motion, light and draught of air. Headache is better by profuse urination. Silicea is also effective in eye conditions like conjunctivitis, iritis, styes etc. There is sharp pain in eyes, and eyes are very sensitive and tender to touch. There is aversion to light, especially daylight. Vision confused with letters running together on reading. It also helps in abscess in cornea after traumatic injury. It also helps in clearing the opacity caused due to keratitis and corneal ulcer. Silicea is also indicated in cataract in office workers. Silicea also helps in coryza, cough and sinusitis. Silicea is also indicated in sleepwalking. Patient gets up while asleep and starts walking in the night. Sleeplessness with heat in head. There are anxious dreams in the sleep. Patient is very nervous and there is lack of stamina and has homesickness. He is afraid of failure. Patient also has pin mania. Silicea baby suffers from malnutrition. The patient has large open frontanelles and sutures. The baby is slow in learning to walk. It also helps in decayed teeth in tumors. Silicea also helps in other conditions like spermaturia and urinary incontinence. There is burning and soreness in the genitals, with eruptions on the inner part of the thighs. The parts are sensitive to touch with fetid discharge. With this, we have reached the end of the tutorial on biochemic cell salts. Thank you for listening to this discussion tutorial. Please like, subscribe, and share.